Hey, everybody. Thanks and welcome to Free Marketing Fridays. So today we're talking about silos in your go-to-market team and how it impacts customer growth and leads to a ton of internal frustration and bad work. Silos are what happens when your go-to-market teams don't align. And we're going to talk about what you can actually do about it, because we know that working day to day in the business, there's sometimes not a lot of influence that we have on upper level organization structures. But here's the thing. No one wins when your go-to-market teams aren't working together, or if things haven't escalated into an obvious squabble amongst teams. They might be avoiding each other while talking smack behind each other's backs. We all know that this happens. We've all seen the Slack screenshots in the group chat. We know what goes down, right? But here's what usually happens. Sales is usually running one playbook, marketing is chasing different metrics, and then customer success is usually the last to know. And once again, they're left to clean up anything that happens and go sideways. And every single team in this go-to-market team thinks that they are the most important part of the go-to-market puzzle, that nothing could happen without them leading the charge. And the results, everybody misses goals, trust gets broken, and work is just not a lot of fun. So today I'll help you get some solid advice, or I'll give you some solid advice to align sales, customer support, marketing, even product without exacerbating the turf wars, how to build a scrappy customer center of excellence that actually works, and create shared metrics and fast habits that cut through politics and help you get shit done. Let's start with a real world email from Google Workspace. If you are a subscriber to Google Workspace, you probably got this in your inbox this week about a price increase starting effective July 9th. But there is a key detail that's missing here. Their actual price increase, it's not there. It's not in the email anywhere. And the message also highlights new AI features and a vague explanation as a reason for the price increase. But the ultimate result is confusion, frustration, distrust on the part of customers, because you're talking about a price increase, but you're not telling them what that price increase is. And then you're asking them to go do more work in order to figure out what the impact of their budget really is. Is it $1 a month? Is it $10 a month? Is it $100 a month? Nobody knows. So we're going to use this email as an example of what happens when teams don't communicate internally. We're going to make some assumptions which may or may not be true about Google, but ultimately, the examples and the implications and the action items that I'm going to pull out for you are, they very closely mimic what happens in the real world. So in our hypothetical situation, what happened internally to create and produce this email? There was a decision made by product marketing teams around pricing, communication, dates when it was going to happen. They launched the email, and then customers became irritated and confused, which then sparked a backlash for the customer success teams and the customer support teams. They have to deal with all the fallout and they have to deal with all the cleanup. So the internal teams weren't aligned. There was no cross-team preparation, no plan, no communication, and then customer success was left with reactive cleanup. And if you've ever said, what happened? Like, why are customers so upset about some decision that we made? Why am I just now hearing about this? This is representative of this situation and that team breakdown. It's not fun for anybody. So here's what that fallout looks like. This is a real reaction from LinkedIn. This isn't a corner case. It's public. Customers are upset, confused, frustrated. They're exuding the what the hell is this energy? And yes, this is me venting on LinkedIn. Other people were doing it as well. I was not alone. And for the record, it wasn't just me that was irritated, right? Customers are venting. They're confused. And everybody had an opinion about it. Not just me. There was a lot of support. This post actually had a lot of traction. Sorry. Where was I? Yes. So the immediate fallout for all this is your support ticket spike internally. Your customer success teams are blindsided. They're scrambling, trying to respond. They're literally dealing with a fire drill that was just handed to them. Because there's no consistent messaging or escalation paths that were created internally before this email went out. And it's bigger than just the immediate fallout. There's also downstream impact. Retention and customer satisfaction scores take a hit, value expansion efforts stall or even contract. Monthly and annual recurring revenue metrics get kinds of wonky really fast, which raises all kinds of flags across the organization, and your cross-functional credibility erodes. When teams operate in silos, customers suffer, and so do your goals. Compounding the fallout just beyond the immediate metrics and the chaos, there's a lot of interpersonal fallout in between teams. It's emotional impact, right? Resentment builds fast. People get defensive, they protect their turf, they pull back from collaboration, and there's just tons of finger pointing that replaces problem solving. There's also tactical fallout. Launches are delayed or go sideways, projects get derailed, handoff breaks down, and feedback loops, they vanish. Customers feel the chaos and they talk about it publicly, and your metrics reflect it. And your go-to-market teams feel it personally. No one wants to try harder when they feel like they're set up to fail. And if you're the one cleaning up the messes that you didn't make, your motivation is going to tank, which causes all kinds of other problems. And this is a systems problem, not necessarily a people or a personality problem. And you don't need permission to bypass the existing silos in your organization to make your work life better. You need a process that's easy to follow and that won't ruffle feathers. So let me walk you through a process that anyone on your team could pick up and start implementing today. But before we start, if we haven't met before, my name is Sunny Hunt. I'm the Chief Customer Nerd at Hunt Interaction, and we help B2B companies grow their customer base in smarter and more efficient ways, starting with their most profitable customers. I've worked with all of these companies and more on their customer growth challenges, and I've worked across over 15 different industries. And surprisingly enough, despite all of the differences in these companies and industries, customer growth challenges tend to be pretty similar across the board. So back to solving the silo boundary problem. Even when your boss is firmly entrenched in an our team first, don't talk to the other teams mentality, you still have a path forward and you don't need permission. You just need a plan. So here's the playbook. The first things first. You have to make the first move, even if your leadership team won't or doesn't actively support it. You need to align KPIs that actually mean something across those teams and find those points of commonality that you can agree on. And then you can build a scrappy center of excellence that helps, not just checks a box and gives you credit for trying to make the situation better, something that can actually make it better. So someone's got to make the first move. It might as well be you, especially if it makes your working life easier and less stressful. So here's how to do that. Number one, communicate earlier, even if your plans aren't final. Share a quick, hey, FYI, Slack message or an email when you're starting a project that might impact somebody else on the team. Even if it's still messy, even if those plans and those timelines haven't been firmly established yet. The second is share often. Use Slack threads, looms, updates. Default to visibility. Drop a loom, a shared doc, or Notion update with timelines, assumptions, where decisions are headed. And this isn't just a cover your ass thing. This is to start building collaboration. You're making effort not to derail projects, but really to figure out what could happen and what could backfire before it launches. You're proactively looking for holes that you need to fill in order to support your customers in a really positive way. You can also start a 15-minute weekly sync. Just ask what's coming around, what's coming on the pipe that could impact one of the other teams that they definitely need to know about. And this isn't to add more stuff to your calendar because no one needs that. This is 15 minutes well spent. It could even be asynchronously, although sometimes face-to-face is a lot faster. And this isn't a status meeting. It's just, hey, what's coming down that might impact other teams? And rotate leadership and rotate kind of leadership this meeting between different partners. Just keep it fast. And if you're wondering how you should identify what those potential impacts look like, just ask yourself, what are the ways that this project could impact our customers? You got to employ a little bit of empathy here and ask, how do we preempt any of these negative impacts that could result in a backlash from customers or feelings of dissatisfaction or even churn? And then finally, you can use a lightweight RACI to make roles clear, especially around who needs to be informed. Let me walk you through the RACI again, just real quick. There are four kind of groups of people. Number one is the person who's responsible. This is the person who is moving work forward in that particular project. It's just one person. Accountable. It's one person who is responsible for signing off on the work. Their goal is to make sure that the work is done as well as possible because their butt's on the line. They're accountable for the results of that particular project. Contributors are multiple people. They're the people who are actually doing the work. They're the copywriters, the designers, the programmers, whatever that is in order to facilitate that project to get it done and through the door. Those are the contributors. And then informed. This is where your other members of the go-to-market team or teams need to be living in your project workflow. They may not be actively or directly supporting the project, but they need to weigh in if there are direct impacts to their work, or if they see a gap, or if they see a hole, or if they see a potential problem. So using a RACI isn't about making a political move or shoving people out of the loop. It's about making better work and making your work life easier and protecting your relationships with your customers in the process. So most cross-functional alignment efforts fail because teams are reporting on totally different goals, timelines, and definitions of success. It just happens. They're running entirely different playbooks from one another. And you're not going to realign all those teams to a singular goal overnight, especially if you're not in a leadership position. So instead, look for points of overlap in your data and your results and your outcomes, and you can focus on those. You have to stop reporting in silos and isolated teams and align to shared outcomes like overall revenue, overall retention, CSAT scores, things like that. And when you make sure that people hear you, you're reporting on results and progress. You have to make sure that what you're reporting aligns to the audience that you're talking to. So for instance, executives want impact and less detail. Like, don't give me all of the details. Like, tell me what the overall impact and the outcomes were. They are literally focused on outcomes. Directors need trade-off clarity and a little bit more detail than executives. They're really concerned about the why. Why are we doing this? Why did we do this? And what are the outcomes? And then managers and ICs need next steps and probably the most detail. They're concerned about the details of how the project's played out and the details of more specific reporting. So when you talk about shared KPIs that cross team boundaries, focus on the top line business goals that are supported with your customer insights, rather than talking only about your team and what might look good on a dashboard. Shared metrics and KPIs are a universal language that spans silos. Focus on those as a starting point, not to take credit for other teams' work, but as recognition that you're all in this together. And if you wind up giving credit where credit is due, it's not going to hurt either. So how do you combine or bypass silos entirely and create function within that little side task force to work towards a common goal? That's where a center of excellence comes in. This center of excellence, if you think about like a task force, what it does is it brings together people from different teams who have different levels of subject matter expertise together in order to work on different parts or different functions of the business. It could be time sensitive, it could be an ongoing thing, but that subject matter expertise is critical in understanding how to move that project forward in a really efficient way that helps meet your business goals. So this is an example of a fully scoped and approved center of excellence. It's just a visual representation of it for the content level of an enterprise level company. This was actually one of my clients. I pulled this directly from the deliverable in order to show you this. But like, this is a lot. Like, we are not doing this today. Like, this is the ultimate goal, but like, that's not what's going to move the needle today, especially when you don't have executive leadership buy off on this. So we're talking about adding what's useful and supports the teams across the organization and what you can act on today. So we're going to talk about a scrappy version that's supported either by a Slack or a Teams channel that moves fast, offers a lot of flexibility, and helps you reach your goals faster. And again, doesn't require executive level sponsorship. You could actually start this today. So we're going to keep it lean. Sales, marketing, customer support. You could add product in here if you really wanted to. An executive ally or sponsor as an optional person if you need somebody with veto power. That's helpful too, but not necessary. But the thing is, don't overthink this. Think about who's open to the idea of sharing knowledge on other teams in order to make their lives easier too. Extend an invite for a conversation and start those conversations. The point isn't like the format or the structure. The whole point is to reduce friction, to share knowledge, and to make better decisions faster. And if you can bring in an executive sponsor or ally, all the better. Again, but it's totally optional. You have to recognize that you're working with adults and you have to trust that they're going to act like adults. If it saves time and keeps people informed, that's ultimately what you're looking for. So how do they actually function? Once you identify those people in the different teams, like when you bring them together, what do you even do? Or what is the goal of actually putting people together? How do you function? Or what are the outcomes of spending any time together? Right? You need to align on messaging strategy because everybody needs to say the same thing with the same intent, whether that's internally or externally, everybody needs to get on the same page. You need to talk about what's working, what's converting, what's getting ignored, how to fix it fast based on real customer inputs. And then metrics that matter and KPIs that matter. If you're not aiming at the same goals, don't be surprised when results don't line up and then you get pushback from the executive team when you're saying, well, guess what? Sales said that they accomplished this, but marketing is saying that they failed on that. And this doesn't say the same thing and we're not aligned on the same metrics. Look, how are you two working together, but you're not really working together? It's very confusing. And then updates. Keep launches on track, identify different blockers, identify different resources to spot and to help out so that you can eliminate the, hey, nobody knew about this moments and nobody can say that they weren't informed. So this is clean execution. This isn't fluff. This isn't team building or trust falls or anything like that. This is just getting aligned so that you can do work faster. Your scrappy center of excellence should help you respond to customers more effectively and proactively. It should help you make smarter, faster decisions. It should help you speak with consistency across the touch points and internally as well. And it should identify issues or blocks before they impact business. You can use fast, super casual feedback loops like async updates, Slack threads, quick voice memos, a rolling Google Doc, whatever works for you and the tools that you already have at your disposal. And don't wait for the quarterly business review to share what's working or where things are breaking. You have to make it easy for anybody to drop a red flag or a customer insight in real time. And also, don't forget to celebrate the shared wins with your teams and your bosses. One thing about go-to-market teams is we're really good at communicating externally to customers, but we kind of suck when it comes to communicating internally to the teams that are actually doing the work. So we need to take those skills that we use in order to broadcast broadly outside of the organization, and we need to use them and treat our other teams and other organization or other parts of the organization as if they were customers as well. Silos break trust, and trust is the foundation of effective work to help support and even build trust with other members of the go-to-market team. So what you need to do is start small with simple conversations, quick updates, and build off those shared wins. Track shared outcomes and shared KPIs, not vanity metrics and not just what your team has done this last week. And your center of excellence doesn't need branding or a big official process. It just needs to be functional. And always keep the customer at the center of every decision, always. Use your data and your insights to support decisions and recommendations and make sure that they're aligned to your business goals. So in our hypothetical situation, if our teams had aligned and communicated and coordinated and took customer data and insights into consideration, pricing would have been included in the email, and you would have seen something like, it's going to cost you $3 or more per month per user. And customers' reaction would have been, all right, fine, whatever. It is what it is, prices go up, and then went about their day. No ranty LinkedIn posts and customer bitching about the brand. Customer value would be intact. Your metrics would be stable. Your outcomes would be achieved, and you would have increased monthly recurring revenue to cover all of those AI resources. And your teams would have been cool with each other, not cleaning up each other's messes and finger pointing. And they'd be free to move on with their other projects and tasks, which is the reason why you're at work in the first place. So I'm going to give you a challenge. As you think about the silos in your own organization and how your work life would be so much better if you didn't have to clean up messes and you didn't feel compelled to share snarky Slack message screenshots in the group chat, here are a couple things you can do. Loop in one team that you normally don't work with and ask, can I give you updates on this project as it progresses? I see that it might impact your other team outside, if it launches. Just a quick one-on-one update, and this is outside any type of standard project management structures. Share one resource that impacts the whole organization, not just your function. So if you discover there's a new way that customers are using your product if they're just using it in a new and an innovative way, share that with other teams. Start conversations about how to support that behavior and encourage it. Maybe there's something there in order that your sales team can use it as an acquisition tool. And then start one visibility tool. a thread, a sync, a doc, anything that makes alignment communication easier. And bonus points if you start with a team that you've had the most friction with in the past. Extend that olive branch. If you work at a company with silos, you're probably not going to get rid of them. It's just going to be hard. And you're probably not the CEO who can direct who does what and when. It's just that way. But you can do a little bit of work and make them a lot less obvious, less of a hindrance, and making your work life a little bit better. So take the challenge, start the conversations, and walk into those conversations with good intentions and expect good things to happen. You might be pleasantly surprised to see what happens. So thank you for spending time with me this Friday. I hope that you learned something useful that you can take action on today, and I will see you next time.